Anyways, yeah, Honey Wash Day. This is Toksa hour. I am live from Porcupine, South Dakota. I'm your host, Margaret Ross, or Maggie Ross, and we're coming live from Porcupine, South Dakota, along the Porcupine Creek, where the porcupines roam. So bear with us. Bear with us. We're sitting here kind of running through some issues here, technical issues. So Chas is going to join us again. So just hang with us.
I can hear you. I won't touch anything. I won't move. I'm just gonna sit here. I just said happy full moon. Oh Lord, things are just happening crazy. So sorry. What a morning. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've been uh haven't even really checked the socials this morning, so I can't even tell you what's really been happening this
I
morning.
didn't
But
have time either.
uh,
So what did I do today or yesterday or this past week? So I was kind of on it with some news, and then it got real busy for me. And then yesterday I had some plans to download some stuff and make some notes out of it. And um I ended up in Rapid too long.
Oh, well, I think we should definitely talk about what's happening at Delaney Hall over there. ICE is, what's going on. Um, they have started a food strike, a hunger strike, in all over several ICE detention centers, and in Delaney Hall, and I think that's in New York. It's got to be New York, and so. Um, or New Jersey. I don't know, one of them. But there's like actual like complete violence happening toward the protesters. Like there's protesters outside, and ICE was just beating the heck out of them like they were in Minneapolis, like that bad. I think they even shot a dude already. I don't know that for sure, but yeah, and apparently the governor. That's why I think it's in New York because it was Kathy Hochul. I think Holcomb is her name. She's the governor of New York. She said she changed the. I don't know what happened, but apparently they changed out the police for like a little while. And so, like, while the New Jersey police or New York, whichever one, aren't there, the protesters aren't getting beat up. But when ICE comes back, they're getting beat up. So, like, yeah, there's actual concentration camps happening all over the United States, and liberals are like, yeah, let's wait till the midterms. Like, really? Like, is Anne Frank gonna make it to the midterms? Cory Booker, I don't think so. Like, what are you doing? They were funding these camps, and both the left and the right. So I get so frustrated with the Democrats, is both the left and the right are. Oh! I did remember something else too, which everyone will be very happy about. Um, well, not happy about, but like the absolute like amazement. They are trying to pass a law that would integrate the Israeli and United States armies. Yes, we saw that too. I mean, what a crazy amount of gall these people have. Like gall, absolute gall. And let's see how the Democrats vote for it because, I mean, if they do, like, we're going to have, people have got to get on the streets if they allow that. If the House and the Senate and the president all sign bills that integrate our army with a foreign enemy that is actually like targeting children right now at this moment, that's teaching dogs to rape human beings, that's starving, whole, for 2 years now, doing just horrendous things, and everyone in the world knows about it, but us guys in the United States, because all we pay attention to
Right.
is sports and and all that stuff. That's all everyone pays attention to. It's like everyone goes from breads and circuses to this breads and circuses at the Met Gala. It was a super, then it's the NBA finals and all the while there are children, being separated from their families. We are detaining people. We are standing. I went to Auschwitz. I stood at the place where, Mengele, was it the doctor who would stand there and look at the people and say, "Oh, you can die today, and you can live to work for me." That's all we're doing is like living to work for these people who are, targeting, uh, children, raping them, and eating them. Like we're working for these people, and everyone's just doing it. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I know we've talked about this before, but I watched the TikTok, and it's gone now from TikTok, about the food. They're actively poisoning us, and if you are care about your family and you care about living, and not just like being there to serve doctors who want to make their tea time. Apparently, there's like a U. When there's a U on the food, that means it's kosher and it's good. And so the Jewish or not, and this is the anti-Semitism part, comes in there. But they've got to make a way so that they're not, killing their own. And so, what is this U that's on our food? I keep finding it. Look, you'll find it's a little U. But I saw a TikTok. It said that's because they're kosher, and there's a special approval that some of these big corporations have to get, or they get, so that they can be, have this. And so, I'm sure they're, not wanting to kill their own, so they make sure that these, there's another, and this is where the anti-Semite part of it comes in too. Like, there's a whole city in New Jersey that's controlled by like these Hasidic Jews that are all like having a bunch of babies so that they can get welfare, and they're living in homes that that the wife owns or something like that, and then the husband, whatever, and they get the feds to pay off their loans. So they basically are circumventing the whole system, and living, in this city, having the federal government, pay for them to live in Jewish, like a Jewish zone, like a traditionally, whatever. Like, who gets to do that? Nobody gets to exclude anyone. Like, it's the thing about it is, and I think Mom Dami has said it so well so many times. I don't think that Israel should exist as it is. Like, if it's an ethno state, it shouldn't exist. Guess what? Same with the United States, though. And people don't put that together. It's like, if you think that we had to die and people had to be enslaved in order for us to be great, then you're a racist. and that's like, it's the same ethno state. The white Christians get America, Jewish people get Israel. And gee, what do the rest of us get but like poison food and like, debt and, poor health outcomes and trauma, and we don't get health care now. We can't make our own medical decisions as women. We don't get to live without debt. We just life with debt, and that's what we get. And people are just like, oh, but the NBA. Anyway, they said that big tall kid who's plays for the San Antonio Spurs, Wemby, is gonna become a Muslim. So I love that. I'm so happy for that, because people, the way that they've lionized, made the terrorists, Islamic terrorists. We were the terrorists too. We were the indigenous terrorists. We were the people that wouldn't go away. Still now some of us can still be in that category, but the way the general public is just like, oh, okay, well, we'll get them in the midterms. It's like, I believe in the midterms and all that, but in democracy, I believe in voting as a harm preventative. I think that's what they call it. Like, I'm gonna vote just because that's what we're doing, and that's the only thing we can do right now. I'd prefer to, not be living in a place where, we have a bunch of people of color in jail. We live in an apartheid state. People don't even admit it, but
I think that's That's true. The one that you're talking about the Jewish folks getting that money, and I think it was in New York, but it might have been New Jersey. But I thought that was interesting. I'm like, because I don't want to have judgment on human suffering, right? So if you're receiving benefits because you're struggling, shouldn't matter what your religion is. But then it's like, I don't think that's what they're. So it took me a while. I was like, but okay, well, I don't think they're struggling. I think they've learned, they're doing the system thing, and um, so then that's kind of like I really did struggle because this was like last year, this stuff started coming out on them, or maybe 2 years ago. And then I was just like struggling with that, like, because I don't want to judge people who are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter who they are, like, I think that it's better to be a helpful human being than it is to do that. But then it's just like it's like, how does this happen? And how is it that nobody can call it out? Because if you call it out or if you say something about it, then you become anti-Semitic. And then I want to make this argument. So slavery was an issue. Slavery happened in the world. Slavery happened for over 500 years, and the United States and their peoples benefited greatly for it and actively engaged in slavery. And so what why don't we have anything that's in place that protects people um, speaking negatively or harmfully towards that? How come we don't call them, oh, you're like what, anti-slave right? You
Well,
what do we how would we address that? Because I think that's really key. And then it's the same thing for native peoples of, indigenous peoples of this continent. Millions and millions and millions of people were genocided. And genocide wasn't a word then, but it is now. And we know that's what it was. And we live it, we feel it, we experience it as Lakota Wia. And so we know what that feeling is, and we see it. If it's not happening to us, we can look across the way and see it happening. Like Rapid City, we can see and recognize it. In the state of South Dakota, we can see and recognize it. Yesterday, I went to a restaurant to eat, and this lady, just nice, she says, asked me, "Do you speak Spanish?" And
hey.
I said, "No, no, I speak English." And she said, "You can pass. You can pass. You could pass for being Mexican. Are you native?" She kind of said. So I said,
Mm.
"Yeah." And she said, "Yeah, native Mexicans and native Americans or something like that." She says, "You're all the same people." And she gave me a whole history, and I'm like, "Yep." Mhm. And then, but she's like, "But you pass. You look like a Mexican."
Yeah,
And
what a good
and
compliment.
yep. And then she says, "If you would have responded back in Spanish to me, I would have thought that you were a Mexican." And so this is a Mexican lady saying this to me. And so should I be concerned about that?
No, because one time I asked someone from my tribe, I said, "Are you Asian?" And then she was like, "No, I'm so and so's daughter." And I was like, "Oh my God, you're from my tribe." And I was like, "Oh my God," like, yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, should I be concerned that she was identifying me that way when the state of South Dakota has partnered through their, what was it, something Thunder, Highway Patrol and ICE?
Well,
So should I
yeah,
be concerned?
definitely. And so should, and that's what's going on in Minneapolis, right? I mean, when I was up there and, in the height of it all, all of the people that I was visiting were afraid. Like, there's like, you know, Mexican and black within all of us, like our little group, and, so people who look dark, we were like making, white people like go along with people like that so that white people would be protected. You have to acknowledge that white people, the racists, these people that have power and been given power by Trump, aren't smart. They're not like at the top of their game. They don't have jobs. That's why they're going to work for the president. And so they don't know the difference between, what people look like or sound like. And so, yeah, that's why people in Minneapolis are still afraid. And, we are in a civil war right now, and white people are freaking locking people up. And all the liberals are like, oh, but wait until midterms. No, I just don't think people understand that, there's a literal attempt to silence dissent, to cut the information off. People don't get information anymore. They don't know what's happening. They don't know that they're not reporting in the Rapid City Journal that the Israeli army is trying to integrate with the United States Army.
Nowhere is that.
They're not reporting on that.
Anywhere reporting that's taking place. It's going to a vote.
And John Thune is probably going to support it because his son-in-law's got a nice job and he's been in it for the longest time. I keep saying that guy's been a tool of the NRA, who is funded by Russia, the Heritage Foundation funded by Russia, this whole conservative movement funded by Russia, and John Thune is, just doing.
You think it's really funded by Russia? I mean, I don't know.
It is. They found out, Maggie. They found it out.
I'm just saying that I'm just in the place where I blame Israel for everything at the point at the moment.
No. See, Israel. I think it's
anti-Semitic.
No. I think it's a very interesting game, but I think the Russians and the conservative oligarchs over there have been funding the Heritage Foundation that we know since the early 2000s. Since John Thune got almost, think about it. In 2004 and 2005, John Thune and Tom Daschle spent $46 million here. So it was AIPAC versus Russia, because AIPAC controlled Tom Daschle. Not as much as AIPAC controlled. He would not as much, but he was controlled. It's because he's still working there in D.C. He's making a lot of money with these AIPAC supported organizations, the Center for American Progress, which is a big AIPAC supported thing. Tom Daschle is supportive of annihilating, Palestinian children. Like that's like his thing. He's been there, very supportive of AIPAC for a long time. Because look, that's what he's done. So it's like the Democrats'
version of bias. Right now, like I kind of let Russia off the hook a little bit because I'm just like, the more the onion layers, come out, and it's like, oh, so Netanyahu, was you over there funding these Russian people to fund this, to do that, and then so this is how that is.
Well, there's like 13. Oh, that's what they do. The oligarchs, they fund war. They want us to go to war. They want the United States to go to war. This is a whole thing. And John Thune's down for it. He's down for whoever wants to make money. That guy. Just give him a little bit of money. It looks
like the whole GOP, except for who? Thomas Massey.
Well, now he's no longer there. If you have ethics, you can't be in the Republican
He's still
Party.
there. He's there until January, whatever. But he's still there.
Well, good. Then he'll vote against all kinds of things. But really, I mean, you can't have ethics. Is what they're saying, and be in the Republican Party. Those guys are crazy. I mean, the amount of corruption is just, But same with the Democrats.
Same with the Democrats. They don't get off the hook either.
Yeah, how embarrassing that they're all like supporting these AIPAC candidates in the primaries. How embarrassing for you, Cory Booker.
I know. Then now Jasmine Crockett caught so much grief for her doing that, and that
good.
Say, I am not involved. I am unbiased or something like that.
Sick. She went to a campaign, fundraiser for them. Anyway, but we knew that
they get their minions out after people. So then all her minions are out posting like that's a false statement, and then people just post her comment or her whole video of like her saying that.
That's right. Like people don't read and listen, so they just like assume that they know, and they have this. We have this. You know, we're so authoritarian, right? In America, we're just like whatever so and so says, I will do, and that is the Bible, and we will do that, and that is, you know, we're so like we don't think for ourselves, and that's the problem. And you know, the patriarchy and white supremacy is very traumatizing. And so sometimes you just do what you're told, and you do. People vote the same way they've been voting since their dad was voting. Their dad told them how to vote. Like no kidding. Some people like, you know, make up your own mind. Think, you know, people like don't want to be challenged. And guess what? I can relate too, because capitalism is so harsh. Like all we do is go to work. Our lives are freaking boring, and if we're lucky, we get to play some machine, play some games, or eat some food or whatever. But then go back to our little grind and never get ahead. And here these guys are living on 7-story yachts and you know complaining. Jeff Bezos like really complaining like if I paid more taxes, dude. Like they're just like. Crybabies. They have everything too, and that's the thing. It's like they want us to. They have everything, and then they want us to like them. Still, like, dude, we don't like you. We want to eat you. Like, you guys are all freaking, you know, horrible people. And I think celebrities and all that stuff is getting their due. And I'm down for an Indian country too, because you know, honestly, like a lot of you know, Indian country is so small that like you know you know you know everyone, right? Like eventually you've been around, and you know there's only 3 million of us, and you go down, and you know the amount of people that want to have to do with state politics, the amount of people that want to have to do with travel, you know, all that kind of stuff. And you know some of us just don't even get involved with the rest of that stuff, and that's totally okay. Um, but you eventually know everyone, and so you know a lot of times those big name Indians that are given the land acknowledgments and singing all songs and all that stuff aren't like our tribal leaders. So if you give them money to get out the vote, they don't even know how, because they don't know the difference between you know uppercut meat and porcupine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't the uppercut. They don't know the difference because they don't put in the work, and they don't know how to organize. Like everyone just thinks, oh, I can get out the vote because I post on Facebook 3 times a day, and people like always are liking me. Well, most of the Facebook is now bots, right? So like they're all just you know people, a lot of people on there. And so what if Sally from New Jersey likes you, but like everyone in your community can't stand you because you just post on Facebook and act like you're cool. You gotta do some stuff in order to make some, you know, be a leader. I'm just so frustrated sometimes that, you know, leadership in our communities is so compromised, right? We've got all these thieves, we've got people always getting arrested for thieving, and then we've got all these people who are getting, pervs that are perping on people, and then we have all these bullies that are just like getting into these really important positions and then just like using it as a as a way to demand respect, and like we just are so unhelpful to each other. We don't build each other up. We just tear each other down on social media, and but the truth has to be the bottom line, right? Like we have to always stay in truth, because some people are like, oh, I'm some people don't understand the levels of which things have happened. um so they don't understand even the conversation that we need to be having. What are you doing? What are you showing us here?
So I'm just showing a bot farm.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's so great. People need to see that.
That's a bot farm, and that's what
Mhm.
people do. So it can be anybody, like any country, even America. So they get all these cell phones or whatever, and they set them up this way, and then they run them through a
Yep.
mainstream or a mainframe, and then they go through this process of, that's how they build support. And so when you get minions and you get bots,
Mm-hmm.
and they're making, this is how they're doing it. um
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really interesting how that how that works.
Well,
But that's what they do.
and this was started in 2016. So this is from 2016. So now it's even more, sophisticated, right? Now it's even more sophisticated. Now probably AIs do it. I mean, now it's all AI probably. And you know, so what are you going to do? Social media is not a place to go and to be an organizer. I don't think, like, because it's just, because people can lie and say whatever. I think that there's like a bunch of people on social media right now that are like, and you are doing it too. But I think this is a little bit different because it's us. But I think that, like, there's no, when you think about it, like, we used to have the Lakota Times, and we used to have, like, just like, newspapers. We do have the Teton Times up here that comes from Standing Rock, but we used to have, authentic, native voices that were out there, right? And sometimes some of these newspapers that you put out that are local in our communities aren't even like our people. Like there's the West River Eagle in Eagle Butte is being run, by non-Indians, and it's very white savior-ish. Like, the people just read it and go, oh, it's just so, like, oh my gosh, like, these wonderful noble savages that are just, in this, circumstance, which is poverty. Not like, oh man, my ancestors put these people in a situation that is poverty. It's like there's this disconnect between, and that's where white people are comfortable. White people are comfortable as saviors and guiders of us, the noble savages, right? When we know for a fact their society is very violent. And the matriarchies aren't violent, and capitalism and the patriarchy super violent. And rape culture is not is what we're under right now, right? That's the status quo. So, and great.
And it's I mean, it's sad to say, but it's just like the corruption of the mind is what allows for it. And so, going through a process to, like, decolonize, and then understanding yourself and that self-healing, because as human beings, a lot of what we do is learned behavior. That's just how the human brain works, is it's learned behavior. And so where did you learn that from? And then, can you unlearn it? Yes, you can unlearn behavior as well. And so I don't like to be sinister all the time.
Yeah.
But but you think about, like, how our mind grows and learns, and everything is based off of our emotion, right? Everything. So our brain learns to focus based off of our senses and our emotions. So when we learn in the womb that if we learn in the womb that our mom and dad are in a volatile relationship, or if there is a lot of hollering, that starts to shape your brain in the womb, because we can hear it. And so we all develop. So, like, me and my siblings, I say we grew up in the same house. We grew up in the same way, in the same consequences, and the same everything. And so we might collectively have a similar life experience because we grew up in the same way. However, individually, we all have our own understanding, because it's based off of our own emotion, our own senses, and how our own body interpret that whole action from womb to child, through birth, through childhood, and growing up. So the way we see the world, we see is individually.
Absolutely.
And so we, somebody can say, so this is what we experience, right? Like, there are some people that were harmed during the boarding school era. And then there were some that didn't get harmed. For some reason, they weren't harmed, and it was a good experience for them. And so then what ends up happening is they put us in conflict. those two concepts are in conflict. So then it's like, why do they have to be in conflict? Because they don't want us all collectively to understand and to heal. And so they have to put the boarding school experience in conflict. So you can have some people who didn't, so then they're struggling because they didn't understand that. And so they may be speaking out or speaking up in defense of, like, I never, that didn't happen to me. I never experienced that. I was all, it was a good environment for me or something. And then you have the
Yeah.
other one like saying, no, it happened to me. This
That's
happened
how
to me.
that's exactly how my aunt used to describe it. Oh, I had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time. But she left the res and never came home. So she, so she wasn't, but like a lot of people, I think, and I appreciate that so much what you said, because I'm going through that with my siblings as well. Like we are not the same people. We did not have the same experience. We did not have the same parents. We did not have the same, um, you know, uh, ability, or access, or information. At all kinds of levels are different, and I think that we always have to be so cognizant of people's emotional intelligence. And the problem is that emotional intelligence is not taught. We're not taught um, from the get go that we are worthy, right? And white supremacy and the patriarchy for women and for men, because the patriarchy is also really, very hard for men, because men aren't able to be their protected self. They have to always be worried about the men around them. They always have to be appealing to men in order for them to feel good about themselves. But for the matriarchy, all of us have our own roles. Everyone, I think, thinks that that women are in charge. No, we all have our own roles. We want to be in charge as women. We don't know. We want to have a community where we all are take care of each other, right? And how does that happen? When it used to happen all the time. That's why it was the way it was. We would own all the stuff. We would do all the things. The women were in charge of the property. The women in charge of war. All this stuff. Like they said that. I was reading something the other day that the warriors wouldn't even let women touch their weapons, their store, their stuff for their horse. Nothing that they're going to war. That was all men stuff. Men, that's killing. And women are life givers, right? We want to continue to give life, and right now, so much of our everyday is like this rape culture, this eating of the soul society, where we're just rude to each other, and we think you should do better, and we don't give proper credence to each of us, like individually, and where we're at. And I think that's I was thinking about this morning, that because I was out on my run. I think about, there's people in our society, and it just made me cry, who are afraid to go outside. There are people who are afraid to go outside because they'll be confronted by white people. I mean, there's people in Minneapolis still probably getting their food delivered and all this stuff because they don't want to go outside because ICE is still there. But even not even just with that active stuff, even without that, before that, people in America were all just like so depressed, and we don't want to have interaction with the community. We do what we have to do. We go to work, and maybe we'll go to a social event like a game. But other than that, we won't participate in politics. That's whatever. No, there's only that's why there's I know everyone who would do that because there's so few of us that even participate, right? Other people, oh, they'll like your stuff on Facebook, they'll do whatever. But when it comes to having real conversations, I'm tired of like teaching people, like Oh, and I wanted to say something too, that there's some research out there about racism, about how racist they did brain waves and of racists, and racists have the same brain waves as addicts, and have the same brain waves as people with OCD. And so I think that if we start to think about them like that, instead of trying to reason with them, it saves a lot of time because you can't reason with an addict, someone who is obsessed with putting people in their place. You can't, and that's what all white supremacy is. It's like in your place. Like, who are you to say these things? Who are you to do these things? It's always like, who is so and so? Well, guess what? I'm a human being. I have 2 legs and 2 feet, and a mouthy mouth, and I'm gonna keep mouthing off, and that's just who I am. And if you don't like that, that's okay. But we have this idea that we all have to act the same, right? We all have to do and have the same opinion. If you don't have the same opinion as us, um, then you're not a part of the clique. And we have such all these like little cliquies, all around Indian country, and it's so embarrassing really because it's like, dude, heal yourself. Like, we're not here to freaking be exclusive. We're not here to like hang out and have everyone know your name. We're here to have a good life and make it better for the next, right? And some people have, they want to be celebrities. They want everyone to know their name, and they want people to listen to them. And that's because they are emotionally, um, not intelligent, and they need to work on themselves. And as soon as they work on themselves and go to a little bit of therapy and go to some meetings, the difference between I think siblings experience, which is weird because like I think I kind of had it worst out of all of my siblings because I just had that more things that happened to me than happened to them. And so I went to therapy like right away in my 20s. And so I've been in the healing sort of environment since then. So for 30 years now, I've been saying to them, hey, this is codependency. And we could talk about it, all day. This is like all this stuff, and this is why we do these things. But people, won't hear from people they don't want to hear from, right? So like people only hear from people that look like them or they respect, right? So they don't respect, So like now my sisters don't even show me respect, Maggie. It just hurts my feelings all the time. My sister's kids, I mean, my sisters do, but my sister's kids, they don't even show me respect. And sometimes they're just like, and it hurts my feelings, but also like I understand because they've never. I'm the only one that's ever even acknowledged the fact that my dad used to use corporal violence around the thing, and great because he got that from the boarding school. So those are traumas that are inflicted upon us that we don't talk about, and then when people can't heal like I can, people aren't able to heal like I do. We judge other people like sitting on the street. We have talented, amazing people in our communities that can't cope with life, and the only way that they can cope is by getting drunk or doing whatever they need to do. I I used to think I hated meth the worst, but like, how do you? Meth is because you end up like doing crazy violent stuff, and violence scares me. But guess what? So do drunks, and so do all the other stuff, and all of it is neglect. And why are there so many addicts? And why don't we actually have a real conversation about solving addiction rather than just putting gas money in people's pockets and hoping for the next election? It's like, I don't know. I don't ever get to set the conversation in any country, but I appreciate you letting me talk about this stuff because I do think that we could be having much different conversations all the time, and yet we just keep having the same
I
one
think
over and over.
I think some of the bigger parts of it too, Chaz, is just the ability to talk about things and then to know that it's okay, like it's okay to um talk about your life experience, and it should be okay, like we all don't have the same, like I'll tell you, my siblings don't have my lived experience, they don't have my perceptions, they don't have my understanding, because those things happen to me in my body, reacted the way it reacted, and my brain developed responses to things like I recognize something, and this happened. This is a human experience where we all have that, where we learned behavior. Our brain, this is that big conversation about when you're building bottom up and you're leading from the grassroots, or you're leading from top down. So remember, they used to criticize like Obama because he was the grassroots, and they wanted someone to be top down. So we have Trump top down, and then everybody's struggling because we want to be, it's affecting us at the grassroots levels. And so our body has the same thing going on. So our senses are our grassroots. So that's what's developing us, and then it doesn't know how to react. And so when I teach about this, I talk about like how that first experience of when they say don't touch the stove, it's hot. Well, when we may not know what hot is, and so we may touch that stove, and that sensation that we get from touching that goes through us, and so we understand hot, but that we understand the word hot. It isn't the sensation of hot is ours. The word hot came from somebody else. So our parents or whoever that said hot, whoever used the language, no matter what the language is, it can be any spoken language. It's the language defines the sensation. The sensation is what we feel. So we interpret what that hot is, and then our brain understands it. And so sometimes we don't have, like we can learn through somebody else's experiences and say, I'm not going to touch that stove because that guy touched that stove and it was hot. And I saw what it did to his hands, and I saw all of that, So I know that stove is hot, and I know what that means. I know what fire is, So it's kind of like that, like our brain develops in a way based and creates perspectives about things. And so language in itself is not inert. It comes from outside. So somebody gives us language when they talk about our mother's tongue, because it's our mother who gives us our language. And so no matter what the language is, it comes from our mother, because she's the first one that talks to us. She's the first one that gives us that experience. Whether she's carrying us, it's her voice we hear. So when we're in the womb and she's talking about things, maybe even just having a private, self-talk, then we hear in the womb, we hear her voice, and we hear her understanding. And so if she's nervous, we're nervous. So some of those things are coming, like our bodies developing and understanding. And so when we give this generalized perspective of peoples and families, like it doesn't jive. It shouldn't jive, because everybody, yes, collectively we are people. Collectively we are this, but then individually we also have that part where in Lakota they talk about like the center, Mie, or the seventh generation or whatever. That's us, the individual. So there's 6 directions, and the 7th is us. And it's in wherever we're going. And so
I think I think that's so brilliant, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I was thinking the other day that I listened to this Maori book, and they were talking about that they had like 11 or 12 different words for anxiety. Like one of them was like, oh, my family is traveling. One of them is, I have to, to do this hard task. One of them is, all this stuff. And I think English is like a category language, and it you have to literacy is a very left right left brain activity, and when you're in your left right part of your brain, that's your very that's your mechanical, side. That's your, whatever. The indigenous people, we're all the way over here on the right side, right? We're all just like, actually, probably both. We have a good combination of both, because we had to survive, and also we see the world in different ways because our language is different. We have a different understanding of everything. And I think that, you know, one of the things that, you know, because we have this experience, this trauma, that was this oppression that has been put upon us, you know, we have to understand CPTSD and PTSD, right? And I think that's the difference between some of us that don't have, you know, long-term trauma. We're able to work that with the PTSD. It's like one event. The CPTSD is the complex trauma, and when you have the complex trauma, which happens, you know, and it's when you're so young and when you can't really give, you know, word for whatever, you end up, you know, seeing a lot of people in black and white, right? Black and white, either good or bad. You know, so this is a good one, these are bad people. So though that categorization is really, like, I think the trauma is that people aren't able to really see a lot of the multiplicity, the multiverse that exists in the world, because they don't have the eyes, they can't see it. You're right, their brains haven't been able to, because they had fear at such a young age. They had to stay. This is good, and I have to stay with that good. That, you know, the good, their idea of safety, right? It's all about safety. And so, you know, we live in a very violent, you know, rape culture is very violent. You know, you know, chattel slavery, very violent. You know, white people have you know, very violently controlled this country and are doing it right now, like pepper spraying protesters, doing horrible stuff. How many videos have we watched since, you know, since the ICE buildup, and since, you know, all of this stuff in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, since George Floyd was murdered? Really, how many videos have we watched where the police are just beating the heck out of folks? Like, and what did Joe Biden do? He gave more money to the police. So, like, what's the difference between the two parties when we're actually not going to really deal with the problem at hand, which is racism, which is the way this country was founded, and it impacts our life. Also, you know, kids who are, shame. You know, another thing is about shame. Shame is a very powerful thing, and that's, like you said, like what are we speaking into our kids? You know, what kind of language is their inner voice, because that inner voice is really what makes the difference between, you know, a positive person and someone who's going to have a very successful life, and someone who's going to, go down the road of shame. Because you know, you can only live so long with a voice that's saying, "Oh, you're no good," you're not, all that kind of stuff. You know, and that's not creator. You know, creators, every message that we get from, you know, the universe is that we are loved, and we are needed, and we're necessary. And we never get those messages from the general public, from the society. We're always like, oh man, Indian people still here, still alive, still bothering us. Why can't we just have our little idyllic, you know, little Stephen Miller land with, like, little bald guys and their women of color wives. You know, his wife is an adopted woman from Guatemala. Yeah.
It's like we really think about how, I don't know if you can hear my roosters.
No, it's all good. No.
Like, oh my God, those roosters.
Yeah. That's
hilarious. Yeah, I think that there's like a lot of, like, the intent for Toksa Hour, when Toksa Hour first started, is like, there, like, it was COVID, there was no information, there was no nothing like that, and then we all were isolated at home. There's no communication, we don't know, and then they were putting us in lockdown left and right. And
you've
like,
been going since COVID? Wow, Maggie,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. So Toksa Hour was born on September 20th, 2020.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then
oh my God, so much work you've done.
And so Jody Treacle used to be with me on, she co-hosted, and then she left in 2021 or 2022, around that time she left. And then I had a whole year. So 2022 was a whole year of just having random co-hosts. So I had, it was like a what do you call it? Like a temper, so my niece Amber Sierra, she came on and she co-hosted with me, and we talked about
Okay.
different societal issues, and then we were going through constitutional reform and stuff. So um hey,
No,
I
no, I
forget
mean,
her name. But
I
anyway,
think,
so she used to come on, and hey, Nakina
oh,
Mills. She
okay.
came on and she co-hosted with me. Then we went through the whole Constitution, and we talked about like all of the levels of constitutional reform and
Oh,
all of that.
wow.
So I think she co-hosted about 6 months. It took us to get through the whole conversation of it. And then
Wow.
yeah, so it kind of went through that, and then mostly me. And
Yeah.
then I'll do guest interviews. So we've had tons and tons and tons of guest interviews. And so sometimes I think about, because I had to download everything when I left Facebook. I had to shut down Doksha Hour. Doksha Hour had like I think about 10,000 followers on
Oh, wow.
Facebook. And so we had a pretty active following and watching and comment page and stuff. And I stayed on Facebook a little bit longer just because of Doksha Hour. And then it was just like it got to a point like I just can't do it anymore. I can't be on here. I can't be on Facebook. Like it just was
Oh,
so much. Like so for about a year, I think I kept saying I'm gonna go to YouTube. I'm gonna move to YouTube. Doksha Hour is gonna move. And then we did it took about a year, and because then I would just slowly transition things to YouTube. And then last 2 years ago, I can't remember, we actually did it. And so
oh.
then trying to rebuild the viewership here, because not everybody comes to YouTube because everybody's in Facebook, but I don't want to be in Facebook. And so
That's
I just
that's
tell
right.
people to just share it over in Facebook if you want to share it from YouTube to Facebook. And then some followers are like, I was just, who was it the other day? I was wondering what happened to you, and here somebody shared your thing on Facebook, Doksha Hour on Facebook, and I was like looking for your page, and there's no Doksha Hour page, and so then I realized you're on YouTube and you've been on YouTube. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I moved.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it so much because I think that, it's definitely, well, right now what's happening on Facebook, though, in social media is like there's people, a couple of guys I know in particular that I follow, I saw in particular, who are just like spending their time attacking our own people, which is so unfortunate. And they're like, and they got a lot of Facebook attention, a lot, Maggie. Like and I'm not going to mention one here, but both of them, as soon as they popped up, I started following them for a little bit, and they were just like attacking their people, so I blocked them both. And then right away, because I'm always on it, like whoever's out there. And now they got such a huge social media following, and it's really sad because they'll just twist the truth and say whatever just from their perspective. And so I have a lot of respect for you because you are grounded and you're in your education, and that's where you come from. And I think that our people, like I said, we only hear, we only learn from people we trust and people that look like us. So there's um, not a lot of people really talking about these really important issues like genocide, ongoing genocide, and who are we in 2026, 250 years after the founding of the United States. Look, we're super poor and we spend all day on Facebook attacking each other. Is Sitting Bull or is Crazy Horse like proud of that sacrifice they made? Or, some of us, sure, we're still living in the idea of, the
think
future where we can't, you know what I mean?
I think
So,
too that like um in communication in itself, like how do we how do we negate or understand? So I try to teach that as well, Chas. It's like, is this propaganda that is being, because our people can do it too. Our people can have propaganda too. And our people can do all of that stuff too. And so just because it's a Lakota
That's
person
right.
saying it or a indigenous person or whatever saying it, doesn't mean that it is actually factually true. And you don't
That's
have
right.
no head. Look at my
That
granddaughter. This is why I have
that
a screen thing, because
yeah.
she will do this. She'll be in the background all day long trying to get in. So you can,
Yeah. Well, it's almost her Uchi time anyway. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate so
So
much our conversation we got going after the thank you everyone for the well maybe they didn't know we had such a hard time getting
yeah, we had such a hard time.
going. Anyway, thank you so much.
Sometimes it happens. It
It was
happens, and
it's the full moon. I think it's the full moon. Everything's a little bit crazy.
is it
And
full moon now?
yeah, yesterday and today the full moon.
Oh,
It's
okay.
happening, and we're moving into the Cancer time, and I'm a Cancer, so it's all about our feelings.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It,
it's all be nice to each other.
I'm hoping I'll get to till because I didn't get my garden planted yet, so I'm kind of stressing out and trying to figure out all these different things, and I'm like, "Ah, I
Oh,
don't have enough time in the day." And then it
I,
rained, and I'm really glad for the rain. So today was going to be the tilling, and then I can at least start getting things into the ground. So I don't know
well,
if I'm going to be able to till because of the mud now.
well, let me brag and say that I have both of my gardens in, and I've already had asparagus from my garden at home. And
My God, I'm jealous.
I know it's been 3 years coming. Like I've been working hard on that asparagus. Like people don't understand. Like and the first couple of years it was like, oh, it's just little tiny pitiful things. But like now I'm like, give me big old fat asparagus, and by next year it's gonna be just
I
amazing.
have like this defect where certain things really gross me out. And I love
Asparagus.
to eat asparagus, but it grosses me out to see them the way they grow out of the ground.
It is kind of weird. They look. I mean, it does look a little weird. It's like that. Look, they kind of like a fungus almost. Like they kind of pop out, and you're like, ooh. That's right.
So
That's
this
funny.
is, oh my God, I can't look, but
I,
if you pick it, I'll eat it.
I'm gonna have blueberries this year too. I'm so excited, and I've had
Oh,
raspberries for the last couple of years. I've been working on trying to bring have some perennials, and every time like
my
for family.
strawberries every year get just done in by the ants.
Yeah, yeah. I got a
So I
plan.
could
I got a
figure
plan
it
for
out.
my strawberries this year. We had a big old bull snake this week in the garden, my garden, and we're all ranchers up there, so they're all like, kill it, kill it, kill it. And my little nephew, he's the worst of it. He's like, kill it, kill it, kill it. And I was all like, okay. And so my nephew was like, and I didn't really want to because I was like, okay, first of all, it's long. It's like 9 foot long, something like that. And I didn't want to. And but my nephew's like, oh, I'll do it. And so he was like, whatever. And I said, you got to cut it by its neck, or by its head in the garden,
No.
or whatever. Normally, you don't kill bull snakes; you just leave them. But what? We got a lot of little toddlers running around, so we were like, okay, it's been around for the fourth time now. So I said, hey, son, like, make sure you just get its head. And
But you
so
don't want to kill bull snakes because bull snakes are the friendly ones.
well, I know, but they still will bite you. They still will bite something. Like, and who knows? Like, if there's a kid around, they still will bite you, and won't kill you, but it will bite you. And we just had a little baby. Anyway, so yeah. So anyway, the story is the snake survived because my nephew was like, "Well, Auntie, I heard you, but I just figured I'd just take off the tail, and it would bleed out." And I was like, "Oh my boy!" So he tried to get the tail, and then that snake turned around and hurled up like a rattler and hissed at him. So he dropped the shovel and took off, and then the snake survived. So
I'm such a horrible human being. When I
yeah.
was a young girl, I used to catch snakes, and
Oh,
because my older sisters and cousins, female, they wouldn't play with me. I would catch those snakes and I would chase them, and I would just
oh
terrorize
God,
them
man.
with snakes. And now I'm deathly afraid of snakes. So even a garter snake, I'm like, oh my God, I'm running. So I was last week, I went up to the cemetery after we did Doksha hour, me and my son went up there and we mowed and stuff. And there was it was just a gardener snake. I screamed and ran. Good thing there was no holes. I probably would have fell down, landed on somebody's dirt grave or whatever. And it's just like, oh my God, I'm just really, because things
Yeah.
are traumatic like that. It's just like I can't just run and scream away. It's just like you go rolling down the hill like a tumbleweed or whatever, you know.
That's so funny. Oh my God. I would have left it alone if my nephews weren't there. I would have just been like, oh, go on. But they were all scared. And so I was like, whatever. So anyway, hopefully it survived and go away. You know, when I was growing up, my grandma used to tell me a story about when she was young that she used to go by this turn with a rock, and there was a snake that was as big as a stovepipe. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a cool image. Like she grew up she was born in 1902. And so maybe like there were still snakes that big living on the prairie back then. And now you won't ever find them because people kill them all. But and I don't know if it was true. She was just trying to scare me too. As big as a bull snake. So, or as big as a stovepipe. Can you imagine? Oh man. Anyway, thank you, Maggie.
We'll see you next week, Chas, and
See,
maybe we'll have it more together for the news. But
well,
it was a great visit.
We covered the basics that Israel, they're trying to take over the army. We've covered all that. So yeah. See you.
We'll see you. Don't shop. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining. I sure appreciate you. And I always do. Like Sunday mornings are I just always try to be here with Toksa Hour and continue no matter what happens in the world, no matter what happens on the res, no matter what happens to me, like try to always be here until Toksa Hour is no more. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Today is beautiful out. The storm came through and a lot of rain and everything's just green outside. I'm just impressed. And then I'm also making my mom's 15 bean soup today. So I'm kind of excited for that. I think I'm gonna make some gabubu bread to go with it and sit and eat some soup with my mom because that was her thing. At least once a week or something, she would make bean soup and she would say, call me up and she'd say, come eat. Got bean soup made oven bread or made biscuits or I made some gabubu or whatever. She'll say that. And anyway, so you guys have a there she is. There's little Miss Toksa Hour. All right, we'll see you later.